Welcome to Astrolab Gaming, and today I have a question to start off today's video, so sound off down in the comments. Have you ever become so quickly fascinated or obsessed with a new hobby or interest, or maybe reviving an old hobby or old interest, picking it up again, that you immediately dumped an entire paycheck into picking up things for that hobby, whether it be new or old? I've done it before with various things: gaming, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! This time around, I've done it once again with tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs. And I've been playing them solo. And it started off small enough. It actually started off with me finding out about like zine style print and play games on itch.io. I was surfing YouTube late at night, maybe a month and a half ago, and I found a channel, and she was going over this collection of small pocket-sized zine RPGs and dice-based games that she had printed off, and some of them she had laminated, and she had a really nice, interesting collection, so I immediately printed off a few of those. And then it kind of spiraled really quickly. I bought one RPG book, and then another, and then another, and then a fourth, and then I bought the bestiary for the fourth one, and then I got a fifth book, Morkborg, and oh man, Morkborg has been quite the journey. From reading the entire book multiple times the first day that I got it delivered in the mail, to taking trips to the library to print off supplements, both paid and free, little one-shot micro adventures or bestiaries or character creation classes, like new classes for Morkborg. And I even chucked in $5 for a zine called the Bork Morgue, issue number 666, an unofficial zine for a dying world by Grayson Yand. And I purchased that on his itch.io, and I printed off really crudely in black and white at the library. And I'm just having so much fun exploring the cottage industry around Morkborg. And I even had my first sat down and got out my miniatures and my dice and got out my hex paper, and I played an adventure, a one-shot adventure, about being stranded in a blizzard and coming across this little abandoned village. And I'm running it solo, so I'm playing by myself, but I'm taking control of 3 characters or 3 PCs at a time. And I like how Morkborg is so front-facing, how all of the roles are being done by the player for the most part, so that really lends itself well to being a solo TTRPG experience. I love the aesthetic and the design and the graphic design of the Morkborg core book, and all of the art and the supplements, paid and free, that I've come across is just fantastic. Almost makes you want to shell out big bucks to have it all printed in color. Being in Canada, it's kind of hard to get a hold of some of the things on DriveThruRPG, because unless you're buying the PDF and printing it yourself, and I have never gone very far into the kind of homebrew zine making like proper zines. I'll touch on that again in a little bit, but I have gotten into zine making, just not proper full-size traditional zines. But being in Canada, there's import customs fees, there might be tariffs on what you buy, and then there's shipping, and our dollar isn't really strong compared to the American dollar, so the conversion is terrible, and most of the time it's just not worth it. But for the Bork Morgue by Grace and the Ant, I might actually consider having a copy of that purchased by me on Exalted Funeral and having it shipped to Canada, because I love that zine so much. And I found really quickly that solo tabletop RPGs are a really good fit for me, because it gets me away from my computer screen and I'm not playing as many video games these days. I recorded this footage just so I could have something to put on the screen. And I don't get the same thrill out of video games that I once did. Not to say that I don't enjoy them. I've been plugging away at some old emulation titles from the GBA, and it's fun, but it's not what it used to be. My new obsession, or my new passion, is tabletop role-playing games. And for me, that started back in high school, grade 10, grade 11, so age 15, 16, with two of my friends from my neighborhood, and we were playing D&D 3.5. I had the core rule book and the starter set, and I would later on acquire the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual for 3.5. But when my friends and I were playing, we just had the core starter quick start box, and we had the player's handbook. And we had fun. We were just bullshitting it, making up our own rules, and it was a good time. But then I didn't really get back into Dungeons and Dragons again until probably a decade later, when I was going to the comic book store every week to pick up my comics. And then I started playing Magic the Gathering for the first time since high school. So I guess both Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons were a high school thing that I took a 10-year break from and started again in my mid-20s at the comic book store that I was going to every week. And at one point I was going to the comic book store on Wednesday night to play Dungeons and Dragons in a group, and by then it was 5th edition. And then I was going on Friday nights for Friday Night Magic, the draft format, sealed booster draft format. And then I was going back on Saturday for the weekly Bring Your Own Deck Modern tournaments in Magic the Gathering. And then on Sunday I would go and play Commander and pick up my weekly subscription list or pull list of comic books. And I was playing Dungeons and Dragons then. And then fast forward another 5 years, during the pandemic I got really heavily into Critical Role. And I binged watched all of Campaign 2, religiously watched every episode of Campaign 3 as they aired on Thursday nights. And then I fell off again. And now I've jumped back in with Dragonbane and 4 Against Mars and Black Powder and Brimstone and Morkborg again. Like I said earlier, I've been creating little zines, little pocket zines. But they're all games that I have created, and they all fit onto 8 sheets of paper, which I then format onto a single sheet of paper and publish as a zine on my itch.io. And I've gotten over 130 130 downloads. At this point, I think 138 downloads with 550 views in my first 5 weeks of being on itch.io. And I have quite a few games posted, and it comes quite naturally to me, and it's a side hobby to TTRPGs, but it's still solo, dice, pen and paper kind of gaming, and this has quickly become my new obsession. So another question I'm going to pose to you is, when was the last time you became so invested in a hobby that all your other hobbies seem bland and disinteresting, like mashed potatoes with no salt or butter, you know, like oatmeal, just oats and water, no salt, no milk, no raisins? When was the last time that that one hobby supplanted all your other hobbies? And it's been kind of an enduring thing, because I've been into solo tabletop role-playing games now for almost 5 weeks, creating my own zine-style mini RPGs for 5 weeks, and reading supplements and playing games, and I have an active campaign going in Black Powder and Brimstone, and one going in 4 Against Mars, and I played a few sessions of Morkborg. The one that I haven't gotten around to yet is Dragonbane, and that's what I would consider the most like Dungeons and Dragons in its current state, and it's a little more involved. Anyway, so if you can answer one or both of those questions in the comments, or shout out your favorite hobbies. Shout out other tabletop role-playing games that lend themselves well to the solo experience that I should know about and check out and get into as well. I'm kind of new to this side of the hobby, and I'm really stepping away from video games. But going forward, I'm going to record video game footage to have something to put on the screen of my videos. And I'm glad my channel is called Astrolab Gaming, because TTRPGs definitely are gaming. Anyway, have a great day. Peace out.